more time off while they're out injured. And that's even less now. It's probably around 55% because we've actually rolled back because of other issues associated with that number. So it's the price of doing business, but it's not an excessively high amount when you consider the fact that it's very labor intensive, the job of being a police officer, and the fact that we're in operation 7 days a week and 24 hours per day. Question 2.
This kind of ties into the whole thing with the library consortium, but it made me think about the police as well. If we eliminate these 2 positions, will we lose any reciprocity we have with other towns? Like Officer Nolan mentioned that they helped Reading out when there was 14 break-ins. Will that have any, elimination of these 2 positions, will that have any deleterious effect on our reciprocity with other towns? North Reading, will we maintain the level of reciprocity we have with other towns if we eliminate positions? Would Reading come, or do we have to have a certain amount, or for example, Reading?
The question is, do we have mutual aid agreements, and will impact our level of mutual aid? I would suggest probably that it would increase our necessity to have depend upon mutual aid. However, to survive in today's world, excuse me, I got a lozenge in my mouth at the moment. But to survive in this world today, we have to have mutual aid. And North Reading Police Department belongs to a regional organization called the Northeast Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. We were one of the founding members of that back in 1963. And what that does, it allows us to share manpower and resources to develop levels of expertise that a small community can't develop and experience on their own. For example, it isn't very often that we have a homicide day caught in North Reading, but because we belong to that consortium, our officers go out there and they gain the experience necessary to be able to bring that back to our town, and we can handle that until such time as the cavalry comes rushing over the hill. That organization has 160 trained police officers that can respond to a community, to a member community, in the time of if there's an elder missing or a child missing or a civil disturbance or like 14 Country Club Road a couple of years ago. They bring in that level of expertise. So mutual aid agreements in this day and age, even at a present staff level, or if we had in excess of the recommended averages for our police department in a community like North Reading, we would have to maintain those mutual aid agreements in order to survive in this tumultuous world.
Thank you. Mrs. Bailey?
Marcy Bailey, 21 Duane Road. I just had a quick question for the chief. At one time, I know that there were overlapping shifts when there were more than 3 officers on the street at a time for a number of hours. Is that still the case, and is that a place where efficiencies could be instituted? If you could address that briefly. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. We currently, through collective bargaining, our officers work 4 10-hour days. And because of the 10-hour day, it creates an overlap. And that's important in public safety. And particularly, I can speak specifically to law enforcement. I can't give you a reason why, but I know that if a change of shifts, stuff happens. And I think what it is people, when they're planning the crime or whatever, they're going to do it. When police officers are back at the station and they're transitioning from one shift to another. This overlap that Mrs. Bailey was talking about allows us to keep a shift on the road as the oncoming shift is coming to duty, and they gear up. They have to go through a formal roll call. You've probably seen an article in the transcript last week about how that formal roll call works, where they share information, they review open cases in the community, and prepare themselves to get on the street. So that overlap is critical. And our shifts run, the day shift runs from 6 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Our afternoon shift starts at 3 o'clock, and they get out at 1 o'clock in the morning. And our late evening shift starts at 9 o'clock and gets off at 7 in the morning. So there is one period of time during the daytime, during that from 9 o'clock at night until 1 o'clock in the morning, when we have about 6 patrol officers and 2 sergeants working during that time frame. But coincidentally, that's the busiest time for a police department. That's when we see most of our domestic violence and crimes of violence occurring during that time frame. So intentionally, we'll overlap during there. To change that, first of all, would require impact bargaining with the representative of 2 police unions. So it's not a simple task to change things that are contractually won by the 2 locals representing the police. Would it be more efficient to go back to the old way that we operated? I don't think so. You know, it will leave us vulnerable during those change of shifts. It will defeat the whole purpose of the stacking our manpower during the busiest time frames when crime occurs.
Anybody else have any insight? Yep. No, what's the woman behind you? Did you? Maybe she didn't have her hand up. Sorry. Deanna.
Is Mr. Nolan all set?
What?
Question?
Did you have a question?
Not for Mr. Nolan.
Oh.
There's a question.
Gentlemen,
Back here.
okay.
Jack Dick, 36 Lindor Road. I'm just wondering if we've approached this the wrong way. Last year we went to the schools and they're experts in education, and we asked them how to make cuts as best they could. And tonight, we've heard a lot of experts in their departments defend their departments. But we haven't asked them to come here and say, where can you make the cut? You're the expert in your department, where can you make the cut? So they said they didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this meeting. Maybe they need to go back to their department and say, my department's prepared to do this, because last year the schools did that, so this year my department's going to do this. And I think a lot of us here would like to hear that tonight. We've had a lot of defense, but we haven't heard a lot of offers of help.
Put the hands up. Deanna.
Deanna Kester, 9 right away. For all the parents in the room, I'm going to ask you a personal favor. If you appreciate all the work that we've done on behalf of Ed Room, I would ask you to stay in this room until this public budget hearing is over to make sure that everything that needs to be ironed out tonight is, so please stay. Nobody wants to feel any less safe. Nobody wants services to be any less efficient. Nobody wants to have any more cuts in our community. However, let's face the realities of what's been happening over the last few years. There's been this quiet crisis brewing for several years, so there should be really no surprise to anybody, even if you were asked yesterday to look at some cuts and efficiencies gained. We knew in April, March, February of last year that there was a crisis. We knew June 5th, 2007 that the crisis was quite real. So please don't say that you weren't prepared to defend or to look at cuts. This has been going on for a long time. The realities have been in front of us for a very long period of time. The schools have already experienced those emergencies and realities. We're just asking for everyone to reconsider what services in this community we are willing to not have in the future to gain parity and balance. So I'll just bring you back to that. Let's just look at where we've been. State aid has declined so much so that we're still $631 million behind 2002 levels. Proposition 2.5 that was presented over 20 years ago caps the amount of money that we can raise taxes each year. The cost of health care has skyrocketed by over 15% a year, coupled with employee benefit increases, energy costs, and the list goes on. So what we have is multiple general government and school priorities vying for ever declining revenue dollars, and that's why we sit here today. No surprises. The school's quiet crisis has become a very visible crisis for every parent and every student in this community. We had 10 positions eliminated last year. That number doesn't even add up to 10. There were 8 positions that were not hired. That's 18 positions. So I know that the numbers in front of you are very difficult, but let's remember the realities of what's already happened on the school department side. Those cuts, the drastic cuts to personnel and programs, are in addition to driving up the class sizes, which impacts the quality of our children's education, and ultimately is deteriorating the performance scores of our children. I would argue, as someone pointed out so brilliantly the other night, that some of the departments that we put the cuts in, our art departments that only had 3 to 4 people, music departments only had 3 to 4 people, technology departments only had 3 to 4 people, but we were perfectly willing to eliminate those positions. And if you want to use the word decimate or eliminate services, we did that across the board in every department of the school department. As leaders of this community, we will ask you on behalf of North Reading United for Education and Stand for Children to reverse this trend and to make the necessary and difficult decisions that repairs the damage that was done to the children of this community by disproportionately impacting the children with the cuts that were made over the last 2 years. Every cut that has been made in the school department has cut to the core. We're not asking for extras. Let's remember that we are 13th from the bottom of the state in per pupil spending. We are 15% below our peer group in our benchmarking analysis. We spend $9,000 per student. Our average peer group community is $10,250, and we are well below the state average of $11,788. Every cut we make, or every position not added back, cuts to the very core of education. And as parents and members of Stand for Children and North Reading United for Education, we've never come before you and asked you to make a difficult choice or sacrifice without being there in the ready to serve this community and ask for assistance in every way we know how. We have asked our legislators for help for several years. We have written hundreds and hundreds of letters to our state representative, to our state senator, to Deval Patrick, to the chairpersons of the House and Senate committees on Ways and Means. We've got a meeting set up with Brad Jones and Senator Tarr at the end of March to ask for more local aid support and resolutions. And we're going to march on April 15th in Beacon Hill with thousands of other members of the state and the Commonwealth to ask for more additional aid. So we've never come before you and asked for for any difficult choices to be made without being willing to roll up our sleeves and do the work for you to find the solutions. So I hope that you will remember that. So what I've learned from Stand for Children is to be very direct and to be very specific with our ask. So my very specific ask is please provide a non-override budget that supports and restores the people and the programs that were cut last year and begins to restore the quality in the North Reading public school system. If we don't make these difficult choices, and I know they're all very difficult as citizens and as employees of this community, we fail as parents, we fail as leaders, and we fail as a community. By investing in education, we give our children the building blocks to help them be successful citizens of the future. We preserve the value of our homes, and we help restore the pride in our community. We're all very grateful to all the town employees and the public servants in this room and that are home watching. We're grateful for the work that you do every single day. We look forward to more work to help resolve and work towards solutions. But I'm also looking forward tonight to hear how you plan to solve this very growing and visible crisis.